They want to put off the military strike, which is the option that's also on the table here, and in my mind, the preferred option. If they make any kind of a deal, the first thing they're going to want is sanction relief. And I think even if we made a deal favorable to us, I think that would not be in the best interest of the United States, the region, and certainly the Iranian people. Why is that? Because it extends the life of the regime. They're likely going to go on now for another 10 years. We have to deal with these people who are destabilizing the Middle East, using their proxies to attack Israel, and obviously horrifically repressing their own people. Is that really what we want? I don't think so.
Can there be a deal with the current regime in Iran? Let's listen to our president to hear what is the only deal that may actually be acceptable.
Our missile program is strictly for defense. It is not and will never be a subject for negotiation, but President Trump isn't having it. Listen to this.
Yeah, there's a deal that would be acceptable, but the one thing, and right up front, no nuclear weapons. If we could have made that deal 2 years ago, we would have made that deal, but they weren't willing to do that. Now they are willing to do it. If they would have offered this deal originally when we first started, it would have been accepted immediately. We'll see what happens.
Here to discuss is retired four-star General, Fox News senior strategic analyst, and chairman of the Institute for the Study of War, General Jack Keane. General, good morning. Thank you for being here. Where do you see these talks stand? I find it interesting that, Iran said that they would only have indirect communications with the U.S. and they would only have direct talks if there were sanctions released. They don't like the maximum pressure, but yet here they were on Friday with direct talks, and they were saying the talks were going well. But then we get this message about the ballistic missiles off the table from the foreign minister. What do you make of it?
Well, I think their motivation for the talk certainly twofold. One, they want to put off the military strike, which is the option that's also on the table here, and in my mind, the preferred option. And number two, if they make any kind of a deal, the first thing they're going to want is sanction relief. And I think even if we made a deal favorable to us, I think that would not be in the best interest of the United States, the region, and certainly the Iranian people. Why is that? Because it extends the life of the regime. They're likely going to go on now for another 10 years. We have to deal with these people who are destabilizing the Middle East, using their proxies to attack Israel, and obviously horrifically repressing their own people. Is that really what we want? I don't think so. But listen, these guys are persistent in the big lie. And here it is again today, that they're really pursuing civil nuclear power. They have one nuclear plant in Iran. It represents less than 1% of the energy to provide and sustain their electric grid. And this is really what they're about, and that is why they have secret sites, and that is why they have the IAE in counting centrifuges and enriched uranium. It's all a bunch of nonsense. They've been lying for years about this, and they continue to do it. And the whole world sees it for what it is. The Iranian people know it. Everybody in the region knows it. All the American people look at this knowing it, that Iran is absolutely in pursuit of a nuclear weapon. The fact that the president is trying to use diplomatic pressure to achieve an end here, that is a pattern that he has established since he's been president. But I think we're coming down to the reality that the military option is indeed the best option here. Because why? It gives us this historic opportunity that no other president has had. Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump has brought us to this moment. This regime is the weakest it's been politically, economically, and militarily. Yes, they do have lots of missiles and lots of drones, but there's ways to deal with that. And that historic opportunity is simply this. If we can set the conditions for a regime collapse, think of that. No longer this kind of a regime running Iran, destabilizing the region. It offers the opportunity for something we've been searching for decades, enduring peace in the Middle East. That would be a geopolitical paradigm change, which I think would define President Trump's foreign policy and national security.
And General, I don't think you can overstate really what a historic opportunity it is, as you were outlining there, because we remember back in 2009, President Obama has openly acknowledged that he missed an opportunity at that time to do something similar to what President Trump could do now. Where do you see the sort of timeline moving on this? Our force posture couldn't be stronger right now in the area. What comes next?
Well, I think what is actually happening before our eyes is bringing in the necessary resources to do two things militarily. One is to make certain we can defend as best as possible against the drones and missiles that we know will be launched by Iran. And two, also make certain that we have the offensive capability to deal with the entire infrastructure of what is sustaining this regime. That is civilian and military leadership, the IRGC and the other repressors of the people that are there. The IRGC is a military organization as well as a paramilitary organization. We've got to strip its entire infrastructure down, Basel militia and others, and then also at the same time air defense systems, certainly, so they have freedom of action over Iran, but deal with their rockets and missiles, which are significant, as well as their drones. This would be combined Israel, United States. We have the capability to do that. And I think bringing in the additional resources, that is the pacing item in terms of when there would be a military operation.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you very much, General Keane. Listening to both perspectives really helps us appreciate and understand how precarious the situation is. From General Keane's perspective, a military operation is the only option. It's the only way to make the change. Peace through strength. The president, as he has in the past, wants to give diplomacy every opportunity to succeed. And the president, during his campaign, he said he does not want war. He wants to end wars. So he doesn't have any interest in starting wars, but he has interest in ending wars. So here we have the Iranian regime, the radical jihadists, who chants the mantra, death to America, death to Israel. This is what they want. This is what they're focused on. They've been saying that since the revolution that occurred in 1979. The president says, listen, we can talk, we can have negotiations, but nuclear is off the table. That's not negotiable. And like General Keane brings up a question that we should all ask ourselves. With all the oil that Iran has, enough to energize the whole Iran and more, as they are supplying all these other countries with oil, they have sufficient sources for energy. Why do they need nuclear for their energy, as they portray? As they are saying that their nuclear ambitions is for peaceful purposes, is to use it for energy. So we ask the very dumb question. You have so much oil. You have an abundance of oil. You have more than enough energy for generations. Why is it that you're seeking nuclear? Obviously, we know the reason. The reason is very loud and clear. It's because they want to have nuclear arms. The program has been going on. They have lied to us time and time again. As General Keane says, these are people we cannot trust. These are people, if God forbid the nuclear arms will fall into their hands, it would be Armageddon, literally. They have no compunction at all to not use it. They will use it. And we learned a lesson in past history from our enemies. When our enemies say what they're going to do, there was a time perhaps the world was a little bit naive and we thought it was just words, it was just rhetoric. Well, let's look not too long ago, 80 years ago, when Hitler began chanting his mantra that we're going to make the world Juden rein, We're going to make Europe Judenrein. We're going to clean the world from Jews and bring the white Aryan nations, make German pure and rid them of all the Jewish people. And people were just saying, it's just words. Well, we have the ability now to look back in history, to look in the rearview mirror and see where those words led to and its consequences. After losing 6 million innocent, beautiful Jewish people, plus 20 million of others, innocent, beautiful people, because of those words. When Iran says death to America, death to Israel, they mean it. Believe them, they mean it. After October 7, when Hamas plus 3,000 Palestinian terrorists breached the Gazan border, murdered and tortured, mutilated, raped 1,200 innocent civilians in the worst, most hideous types of torture that you could do to humans. Who could ever unsee that image of Mrs. Bibas holding on her 2 beautiful redhead babies for life? Her anguish in her face, we can never unsee that. Only to have been abducted, kidnapped, taken to the dark tunnels of Gaza, to be tortured, to be starved, and eventually to be killed. The babies were killed by bare hands of these savage terrorists. That's the evil that the world is dealing with. Hamas has been sponsored, has been paid for by Iran. Hezbollah has been paid for and bought and supported by Iran. The Houthis have been supported by Iran. With one goal in mind, we must kill every single Jew. And not only every single Jew, because as the saying is, today they're going after those who observe Saturdays. Tomorrow they're going to go after the Sundays. Today they're after the Jews, tomorrow they're after the Christians. And they are already after the Christians. We have seen what has happened in the Christian villages in Africa, how they have been slaughtered in the hands of the Muslims. So we are at a watershed moment in history. As the general said, from a military perspective, we have no choice but to topple the regime now. If not now, when? Just finish the job. Otherwise, we'll be dealing with this years down the road. It's been already decades, 4 decades that we have been suffering. Imagine there are 90 million Persians in the Persian Gulf that are in Iran that are suffering. They are, as quoted, they are in one big concentration camp. Even hearing those words brings you shivers down your spine to hear about a concentration camp. But that is where you have 90 million Iranians that are held captive in Iran by this tyranny of a government, a murderous government, a government that sends its own death squads to kill its own people, to aim at their eyes nonetheless. The numbers have been unconfirmed. At first there were 1,200, then there were 1,000, then there was 5,000, then there's 10,000, 12,000. The numbers went up to 20,000, 50,000. Some say the hundreds of thousands. We don't even know what the numbers are of how many civilians, innocent, they have just slaughtered in the last few weeks. And the world remains silent. And the world hasn't protested, just as they have protested Israel right after the Gaza war broke out. When Israel went to defend itself and go after its captors, the world went out to the streets with marches, protests, which turned deadly. The campuses had their encampments to go against Israel, what Israel was trying to do, go through its operation in Gaza. But right here in front of our eyes, 30 to 50,000 innocent babies, mothers, daughters, sisters, sons, cousins, uncles, aunts, grandparents, these are real, regular people, were killed within the last 3 weeks. And there's absolutely zero protest in the world, zero condemnation in the United Nations. What's with this double standard? Obviously, this can help us truly understand the anti-Semitism that we are faced with these days. If all of these people who are protesting really cared about the value of human life, of babies, and human life. It wouldn't be a difference if it's a Gazan, Palestinian, or a Persian citizen. Human life is sacred. Human life is all created by God in the image of God. And they all deserve to be sacred. And they all deserve to live and to be valued. And our responsibility is not only to sustain life, but to prolong life of all of God's children, regardless of race, color, religion, nationality, or ethnicity. Yet the world still remains silent. We have to listen to a General Keane is inspiring. From a military perspective, it's doable, it's attainable, we need to do it. Our president wants to exhaust diplomacy. We have seen it time in, time out. At times, politics is not going to resolve the issue. It needs to be resolved with strength, with power. We are so close in making this happen. The Iranian government is at its weakest level ever. Its economy has tanked. Its waters are drying up. Its defense system has been neutralized by Israel. Its top commanders were neutralized by Israel. Now is the perfect time. Let's pray and hope that the United States of America and its allies come together and help free the 90 million Iranians and the rest of the world. God bless you. God loves you.